All right, everybody, welcome to another exciting edition of the program. It is Championship Sunday, and we're winding down on this NFL season. And before we preview the conference championship games, let's take you back to a recap of the divisional weekend and what an exciting weekend it was in the NFL. We had the Houston Texans take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs would hold on to beat the Texans 23-14. An upset in Detroit. The number one seed Detroit Lions would lose to the Washington Commanders 45-31. In a snowy game in South Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field, the Philadelphia Eagles hold off to beat the Los Angeles Rams 28-22. And then we had in Orchard Park, New York, just outside of Buffalo, the Baltimore Ravens would lose to the Buffalo Bills 27-25. After Baltimore scored a touchdown on an attempt on a 2-point conversion, Ravens tight end Mark Andrews dropped the ball in the end zone that would have tied the game at 27. However, Andrews drops the ball in the end zone. Buffalo holds on to beat the Ravens 27-25. And those were your scores from divisional weekend in the NFL. I like to start off with my top three storylines. I like to start off talking about Mark Andrews. So as you heard me say earlier, Andrews had a chance to tie the game at 27 for his team, the Baltimore Ravens. However, he dropped the pass in the end zone on the 2-point conversion attempt, and Buffalo would hold on to beat Baltimore. It's been a very trying week for Andrews, but in the middle of the week, Andrews spoke for the first time in a very heartfelt, lengthy post on Instagram, expressing that he feels gutted about dropping the pass in the end zone and about the loss to the Buffalo Bills. And he made a vow not only to himself, but to his team and to Ravens fans that he will be better from this and the Ravens will be better from this going forward. And in one of the nicest gestures after that post, Buffalo Bills fans made a donation to his type 1 diabetes foundation. Of course, if you don't know, tight end Mark Andrews suffers from type 1 diabetes. And certainly Andrews has said that since dropping the pass in the end zone in the game against Buffalo, he and his girlfriend have received death threats, specifically on social media, and it's just been a roller coaster of a week for them. But Andrews expressed in a lengthy Instagram post that he is gutted, he's angry, and he's just saddened by it, and he vows to be better from this. And Mark Andrews is one of the premier, not just tight ends in the National Football League, but one of the premier household names in the National Football League, one of the best players in the league. And certainly, if anybody will bounce back from this, it'll certainly be Mark Andrews. And it's tough right now, but if anybody would, one of the people that would bounce back from this, it would certainly be Mark Andrews. My next storyline is going to be Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. So here we are, another chapter in the rivalry between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen has never beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs so far, but these two quarterbacks are very dynamic. Josh Allen will run through a brick wall to not only get a first down, but even to get a touchdown. And he will throw a ball in traffic if he has to. Patrick Mahomes, Patrick is the Harry Houdini or the David Copperfield or the David Blaine of the NFL with that Mahomes magic, making the backwards passes, doing whatever he has to do to get his team a first down and then some. The razzle dazzle, so on and so forth. And these two have dazzled us with this rivalry for quite some time. And we've seen some great quarterback rivalries over the course of the National Football League. And this is just the continuing saga and great quarterback rivalry, specifically with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And then also, too, with their respective teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's been so much drama and so many storylines between these two quarterbacks. And certainly this game, another AFC championship game between these two quarterbacks and these two teams are certainly to provide some high some high intensity and definitely some drama that football fans can only await. And for my last storyline is going to be the Washington Commanders. Who would have thought that the Washington Commanders would be playing in the NFC Championship? I would have never imagined it. Remember, the Commanders, I believe they only won like 4 games last year. And with the Commanders having the number 2 overall pick in last April's NFL draft, they selected the Heisman Trophy winner, the quarterback out of LSU, Jaden Daniels. And you talk about one heck of a year. I mean, Robert Griffin III's rookie season for Washington was phenomenal, but Jaden Daniels is just on a whole nother stratosphere. And not just with Jaden Daniels, but Terry McLaurin and Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, Brian Robinson Jr., De'Ami Brown, Austin Eckler, just to name a few. The Commanders have been clicking on all cylinders, and Dan Quinn definitely deserves to have strong consideration for Coach of the Year honors. But that's just the beauty of not just the NFL, but just professional sports as a whole. You just never know year in and year out who's going to be that team that's going to surprise everybody. Certainly this year it's been the Washington Commanders with fourth quarter comebacks, Hail Marys, game-winning drives. Hey, Jaden Daniels is a star, and he's already a superstar. And Jaden Daniels is going to be the Commanders' quarterback for the next decade and a half, almost 2 decades. Not only getting it done with his arm, but also getting it done with his legs as well. And the Washington Commanders have surprised a lot of people, and we've seen those blue blood organizations like the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants, Green Bay Packers, just to name a few, and recent with the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's so refreshing to see Washington back in the forefront once again, because they've had some great Hall of Fame players and some dynamic players for decades, like Joe Theismann, like Mark Rippon, like Doug Williams, like Dexter Manley, Charles Mann, Darrell Green, just to name a few. And certainly, of course, Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders, and Art Monk. And it's just refreshing to see Washington back out in the forefront and enjoying their time in the sun once again. All right, so that takes care of that. So now during the week, we had some major head coach hiring. So let's start off with Pete Carroll. You know about Pete's MO, right? Many years as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, won a Super Bowl with the team, and now Carroll is back as a head coach in the NFL. He agreed to a 3-year contract with the Las Vegas Raiders, with the 4th year being an option. And I personally like the move. I like the hire. I think Pete Carroll will be great for the Raiders. He has enthusiasm unlike any other. That's a franchise that's been in desperate need of a facelift for so many years. And certainly Pete Carroll will definitely be the one to make that happen for the Raiders. And now they've got their new coach, even though I thought Antonio Pierce should have gotten another year, maybe 2 more years. But nevertheless, Pete Carroll is the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and they'll definitely have their work cut out for them in this year's draft, and then they'll test free agency and things of that nature. But Carroll brings the championship experience, winning a Super Bowl, winning a national championship as a head coach for the USC Trojans. And, you know, Pete, he's going to bring that enthusiasm. That's what's been missing from the Raiders franchise for quite some time. So again, Pete Carroll is the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Ben Johnson, no longer the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He's the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. And this was desperately needed for developing a star and quarterback Caleb Williams, not just for Caleb, but with the offense as well, with Rome Odunze and DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. Ben Johnson is going to bring so much to the table in terms of the offense for the Bears. Defensively, Chicago's going to be fine, but offensively is what they needed. They got the offensive-minded head coach, and Ben Johnson's been one of the most sought out and one of the best offensive masterminds in the National Football League. And certainly Ben Johnson, definitely a great hire and a great fit for the Chicago Bears. Aaron Glenn, no longer the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He's the new head coach of the New York Jets. And certainly Aaron Glenn, he knows that organization very well. He played almost a decade for the team as a cornerback, went to several Pro Bowls, and then had several seasons as the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. So I think this is a good move based on familiarity. Aaron knows he knows the city. He knows the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. He knows the franchise very well. He's got a good rapport with them. He interviewed not just for the Jets job, but also for the New Orleans Saints job as well. But Aaron Glenn said that the Jets was his first choice and his preference. And guess what? He got his wish, and he's the head coach of the New York Jets. And so going forward, what's going to happen with the Aaron Rodgers situation? Hey, I think Rodgers will be back with the Jets in 2025. And they have a new, speaking of the Jets, they have a new general manager. His name is Daryl Mogay is his name. So we'll see with the new GM coming in, what they're going to go forward with Rodgers in 2025, or will they go in the draft and maybe get a quarterback or test free agency? Who knows? Also, Robert Saleh, former head coach of the New York Jets. Well, guess what? He's making his way back to the West Coast, and he'll have a second stint as the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. Robert Saleh, when he was the defensive coordinator the first time for the 49ers, that defense was unstoppable. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and company. My goodness, you talk about they shut people down. And certainly Robert Saleh is a defensive mastermind, a defensive genius, and he could bring that defensive toughness back to the 49ers. For the last several years, the Niners have had a lot of injuries on defense, especially this year. But it's a welcome change for Robert Saleh, and as he's brought back to the San Francisco 49ers as the defensive coordinator. The Dallas Cowboys, right? The soap opera that never ends. Well, they have their new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. And I'm not a fan of this move, but I think this is a good move I think it's a good move for Jerry Jones. You know how Jerry is. Jerry likes to have control of the coaches. He wants to have the say-so in a lot of things. And I think this is a move that's tailor-made, a custom-made for Jerry Jones. Brian Schottenheimer signs a multi-year deal with the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm not a fan of this idea. I really think they could have, if that's the case, they could have given Mike McCarthy an extension, could have given him possibly more money or maybe more years, who knows. But again, the gift that keeps on giving, and the soap opera continues for the Dallas Cowboys. Brian Schottenheimer is their new head coach. Liam Cohen, former offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's the new head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Kelvin Shepard. Kelvin Shepard was the linebackers coach for the Detroit Lions. He stays with the Lions, and he's been promoted to the defensive coordinator position. So, man, a lot of moving and shaking in terms of not just with general managers, but also with head coaches and position coaches being promoted to coordinator positions. Is a lot, and it's never a dull moment in the NFL. All right, that takes care of that. Now it's time to preview Championship Sunday in the NFL. The Washington Commanders take on the Philadelphia Eagles. So for Washington and Philly, these two teams, they split the regular season series. Philly, they beat the Commanders in a close game on Thursday Night Football. And then later on in the year, the Commanders, Jaden Daniels and company, they pulled off the fourth quarter comeback. Jalen Hurts suffered a concussion in this game. He did not return. Kenny Pickett finished the game, but Jaden Daniels was just something else in that drive alongside Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, De'Ami Brown and company. But for Washington, it's been, a magical year for them. No one expected them to get to this point. Washington in the wild card game upsetting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the divisional round, they upset the Detroit Lions. For the Philadelphia Eagles, in their wild card game, they beat the Green Bay Packers. And then in the divisional round, they would go on to beat the Los Angeles Rams. So during the week, Jalen Hurts, tending to a knee injury, he's going to play in this game. The Commanders, full of confidence. They have no fear, none whatsoever on both sides of the football. Jaden Daniels doing what Jaden does best all week, staying cool, calm, and collected. practicing at a high level as well as the rest of his team. All systems go for the Commanders. Dan Quinn, he's got his guys ready. Nick Sirianni's got his guys ready. And these two teams, they know each other. I mean, they've known each other for decades, Washington and Philadelphia. And this game is going to be close. This is going to be another fun chapter in the continued rivalry between Washington and Philadelphia. This is going to be outstanding. I mean, the fans in South Philadelphia and Lincoln Financial Field, it's going to be raucous. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, sunshine, right? And Commanders fans, they'll make that trip up I-95 to Philadelphia and to support their team. And certainly this should be a fun one with Washington going up against Philadelphia. The Buffalo Bills go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So again, this is another chapter in the great rivalry between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Both teams have had similar courses to get to this point. However, Kansas City, this year has been strange for them. Kansas City's won a lot of games, but they haven't had really the knockout game. They really haven't had the knockout performance. They could be like, "Ooh, this is the Kansas City Chiefs." But however, Kansas City, they were able to hold off the Houston Texans in the divisional playoff game. Patrick Mahomes, he made plays when necessary. Travis Kelce was the one that really held them down. I mean, whenever it's January, Patrick and Travis, that duo is something else, man. All of the other months are good, but January is when those two really turn it up. And certainly Travis Kelce had his day with the Houston Texans defense. As for the Buffalo Bills, they dismantled the Denver Broncos in the wild card game. Josh Allen was unstoppable. James Cook was running like nobody's business. And in the divisional round, a close game against the Baltimore Ravens, they were able to hold off Baltimore. And this sets the stage now for another monumental game, not just between two quarterbacks with Allen and Mahomes, but really with two teams with Buffalo and Kansas City, and also with two great head coaches, Sean McDermott and Andy Reid. This is going to be another great classic at Arrowhead Stadium with the Buffalo Bills going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, now it's time for my game of the week. My game of the week will be the Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So when you think of these two iconic franchises, Washington and Philadelphia, these two franchises are set up in two of the most iconic cities in America, Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. Now, Washington, the Commanders, they have not played in D.C. since 1996, where they originally played in Southeast D.C. at RFK Stadium. Currently, since 1997, the Commanders have played at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland, which is in the DMV. And they've had to endure some up and down seasons, with the exception of the amazing rookie year with Robert Griffin III, and then we saw flashes of the talent of Kirk Cousins. But there's a quarterback that is just simply dynamic, and Jaden Daniels. The Commanders, I knew it from the jump that they hit the jackpot in last April's NFL draft when they had the number 2 overall pick in drafting the quarterback out of LSU. And man, it has just been one heck of a year for that franchise. It's been a renaissance. It's been a revival. It's been a rebirth, not just for the Commanders, but just for fans in the DMV and Commanders fans all over. And I think this is a great revival for the NFL. And it's great to see, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we talk about those dynamic franchises like the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, the New York Giants, the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, and most recent with the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. With the Washington Commanders being in the mix, this is really awesome. And if you know about players from that franchise, Joe Theismann, Mark Rippon, Doug Williams, Gary Clark, Art Monk, Ricky Sanders, Darrell Green, Dexter Manley, Charles Mann, just to name a few. John Riggins, just to name a few. Washington has been on it for decades, and there was a while, it was a long time where the inconsistencies were there, and they were not in the public eye or in the media's eye, so to speak. But however, they've produced some great players, and also too the late great Sean Taylor. You can't forget about Sean Taylor. Rest in peace. And it's a revival and a rebirth of a franchise led not just by the quarterback, but also dynamic players with Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, De'Ami Brown, Zach Ertz, who's found the fountain of youth in his first year in Washington. This has been a lot of fun. And as you, from DC, you go up to I-95, the Philadelphia Eagles. You know the talent that the Eagles have, right? And this year, the X factor, I think the X factor for the Eagles has been Saquon Barkley running like nobody's business. And when Saquon gets going, everybody gets going on the Eagles offense. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, so many great players. Kenneth Gainwell on the offensive side. The offensive line has been different this year. No Jason Kelsey, but they still have quality linemen with the likes of Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, Cam Jurgens, just to name a few. These two franchises have been great, and not to mention the Eagles defense with the number one defense in the NFL this year, what Vic Fangio has done as the defensive coordinator. And certainly this is, I mean, this rivalry throughout the years has been intense, and it's been outstanding. And these two teams, they've only met once in the playoffs. Washington won their first playoff meeting in the wild card round in 1990, with Washington winning 20-6. And these two teams have played each other during the regular season this year. It was a close game on Thursday Night Football. Philadelphia would wind up winning. It was a close game, by the way. Philly would wind up winning 26-18. And in their second game at Washington, Jaden Daniels, a fourth-quarter comeback game-winning drive. Jalen Hurts got hurt in this game. Kenny Pickett did what he could do, but Jaden Daniels and company would help the Commanders win in the second game, 36-33. So you've got all sorts of great players in this rivalry with the Commanders and the Eagles. This should be a fun one, a ton of great players, and we'll see what the quarterbacks can do in this game with Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. The Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles. My game of the week. All right, before we get on out of here, I want to give you my picks on who I think will win Championship Sunday. The NFC Championship game, the Washington Commanders versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Very close game, a very intense game. I like the Washington Commanders to win the NFC Championship. The Buffalo Bills will go up against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. This is going to be another nail-biter between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and the continued rivalry with the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Another thrilling game, but I like Kansas City to win the AFC Championship. So again, my picks are in the NFC Championship game, I like the Washington Commanders. And in the AFC Championship game, I like the Kansas City Chiefs to set the stage for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans with the Washington Commanders going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's it. That's going to do it for another exciting edition of the program. Till next time, everybody, I'm Ed Robinson saying so long, you take care, and enjoy the games. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.